Sports Illustrated, covering the WNBA, they just put out their list of, I guess, what was it, the 50 most influential people in sports, I believe. Sports Illustrated. Do you remember Sports Illustrated? They're still out there doing their thing. It's a pretty big come down from when I was a kid. I was subscribed to Sports Illustrated when I was 6 years old. It was iconic. Every week you get it in the mailbox. It was must reading. Sports Illustrated's still out there. And maybe to remind us that they're still out there, they've done something a little bit provocative. And here I am, Sports Illustrated. I'm falling for it. I'm talking about it on this show. Sports Illustrated with their 50 most influential in sports. And they've got on the cover, of course, the woman who came into the WNBA and completely changed the game, perhaps opening up a new generation to women's basketball like we wouldn't have thought possible, quite frankly, before she came along. Of course, I'm speaking of Angel Reese is on the cover. The Golden Age, the 50 most influential figures in sports. The WNBA's Golden Age is just beginning, and of course there is Angel Reese on the cover. Well, that's interesting. How many times was Bill Laimbeer on the cover of Sports Illustrated by himself? How many times was Michael Jordan on the cover of Sports Illustrated by himself? Listen, I've said it many times. Angel Reese is a nice player. She's a good rebounder. She's a lot prettier than Bill Laimbeer. I'll give her that. Easier on the eye than that fucking ogre. I'm still a little salty. Still a little salty about the Celtics and Bulls rivalries with the bad boys. Angel Reese is a good player. She's a great rebounder. As I've said on this program numerous times, she rebounds a lot of her own misses. Good player. Caitlin Clark is the needle mover, and we all know it. Now, Sports Illustrated, we're going to spread the love around, I guess. Maybe that's what they're going for. Maybe it's like Caitlin Clark has had enough attention. Angel Reese, we're going to try to build these other stars up. But as I said on this show not long ago, I didn't know who A'ja Wilson was last year. And A'ja Wilson is the MVP of the WNBA this year. She's going to win that award. It'll be her third. Scored 1,000 points this season. The first woman in WNBA history to have a 1,000-point regular season. Maybe give her the cover. Is it just me? If you're going to pivot and you're not going to go with Caitlin Clark, maybe give the best player in the women's game the cover. Because, let's face it, like it or not, Angel Reese is riding Caitlin Clark's coattails. Everybody in that league is. But Angel Reese in particular should be thanking her lucky stars every day that Caitlin Clark came along, because she's making Angel Reese a lot of money and she's getting Angel Reese attention, such as being on the cover of Sports Illustrated. What chance in hell would Angel Reese have had of being on the cover of Sports Illustrated in a world where Caitlin Clark doesn't exist? That's a rhetorical question because I'm going to answer it for you. 0% chance. Angel Reese would have been just another nice player in the women's game that won a championship in college, went to the WNBA, and labored in anonymity in that league, if not for number 22. It's just a fact. And Sports Illustrated actually goes on, 11 of their top 50 most influential are connected to women's basketball, which, look, I'm happy to see the women's basketball game growing. I really am. I'm excited about Caitlin Clark, and I'm going to follow her career with interest. And I'm going to learn more about women's basketball. I'm never going to be a women's basketball super fan. I'm not going to sit here and bullshit you. But I know more about the women's game now than I ever have in my life. And I would anticipate, as I follow Caitlin Clark's career with great interest over the next 5, 10 plus years, I'm going to learn more about the women's game, and I'm sure that my interest in it will increase at least somewhat. But you see, Caitlin Clark is just getting sort of just a passing mention. She's just one of the other 49 because it's Angel Reese's world. And we're all just living in it. Interesting choice, Sports Illustrated. You at least got me talking about you today. And I will now bring in a man that I can't think of anybody who likes to talk about the WNBA more than this man. I'm speaking, of course, of the international streaming star live from Nashville, Tennessee. He is, of course, Ronnie T-Shirts. And Ronnie, Sports Illustrated isn't as relevant as it was when we were young men, but what do you make of this? Angel Reese on the cover and 11 of the top 50 most influential coming somehow connected to women's basketball.
What number was Sheryl Swoopes?
Well, I don't think these were numbered for starters, but Sheryl Swoopes did not make the list.
What?
Surprisingly, Ron.
Are you kidding me?
Some say that she may be the most relevant woman in the history of women's basketball, but yeah, she's probably going to be salty about that now too. Did not make they were letting everybody in there. 11 people. Some of them were ESPN announcers. Dawn Staley was one. The coach, South Carolina. Pat McAfee wasn't on the list, by the way. Can you imagine? Pat McAfee doesn't make the top 50 most influential, but yeah. But the announcing crew for ESPN WNBA, there were 3.
Were there
you don't know who they are?
How would I know? How the hell would I know who they were?
How would anybody know, Ron? It's like they might as well be in the witness protection program, but Pat McAfee doesn't make the top 50. So, interesting call.
Were there any men on that list?
I'm sure there were. Ron.
I'm just curious.
I haven't. I mean, maybe we can. Tiger Woods was on there. There were others. I don't know what the breakdown of male, female was, Ron. Because I don't see gender.
I thought it was just women. I thought it was the 50 most. I thought the way. I'm sorry. I thought it was.
You're genuinely. I thought you were just being a smart ass.
No. I'm sorry. No. I thought it was. That's why I was wondering why you said Pat McAfee. I thought it was the most influential in women's sports. That's why.
No, it's the most influential in sports, and 22% of the list WNBA, is women's basketball related.
WNBA announcers are on there. That's hilarious.
Yes, there are 3 WNBA announcers on there, from what I understand, Ron. Yeah,
that is fantastic. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, there's so basically, Sports Illustrated, they should just call it their DEI issue.
Well, look, Sports Illustrated, they're pushing the women's game, and we're talking about it. So maybe it's not that stupid. I honestly don't know, but yeah, it seems to strain reason and logic to say that 11 of the top 50 most influential sports figures right now are related to women's basketball. Caitlin Clark, yes.
I mean, this even makes it crazier for me now, Ricky.
I don't know who you would slip in there other than Ricky, Caitlin Clark, if we were really being honest.
This makes it even crazier for me now, because the whole time that, we were doing show prep and everything, I just assumed this was women's. And I'm like, I understand you're going to come out and you're going to say, Angel Reese. Like, that makes no sense. It should be Caitlin Clark. But you're telling me this is sports and Angel Reese is like top of sports? Like she's the face of influential sports? I mean, that literally renders that issue in that publication just stupid and useless. Sorry.
Well, first of all, strong preparatory work from you today, Ron. That's the kind of hours that I like to see you put in so that we can have the best possible broadcast every day. Yeah, we're leaving out literally everybody else in the sports landscape. Yeah, you could have picked anybody. Could have chosen anyone, but they chose Angel Reese. So yeah. All right, let's talk about other choices now, Ron. The poll of the day, and as you and I have discussed recently, America's just falling in love with the poll of the day. We've got people now who are wanting to contribute their own polls. They're embracing it. It's becoming a part of the fabric of American life, really, Ron. Some are saying, and by some, I mean me just now saying that, the first person who's ever said it. But we have people who are chiming in and they're wanting to step up. It's like a carnival game almost at this point. People are wanting to step up, pay their dollar, and take a shot at the elusive, some say impossible, quadruple 25, Ron. The goal of this game, if you're watching this show for the first time, the goal of the game is to take 4 things that are good and see if you can come up with something that will basically be a choice where America is evenly torn between the 4 options. 25 across the board. And so today, Ron, yesterday's poll was the first one that we outsourced outside of our family. I've done just about all of them in the past. You have now contributed a couple. Yesterday, the Yacht Rock playlist consultant, one of our most devoted fans and one of the most valuable members of the Super 70 sports community, gave us his offering, and it was a good poll. Didn't come close to the quadruple 25. Today's contestant is a name that's very familiar to you, going all the way back to the old Super 70 Sports Show podcast, Ronnie. The great Rex Crum has contributed today's poll for us. As I always ask you to do, before producer Tim makes his dramatic selection, I'm going to ask you to tell me what your choice is and how you break down what you believe America is going to say.
And as I always ask, I want to know before I give you my breakdown, what do you think I picked? Because I don't think you're going to get it right today.
Well, you telling me that you don't think I'm going to get it right throws
I
me
just
off
gave you too
a little
much
bit.
of a clue.
More than a feeling. You
it's what
probably
I picked, Ricky.
Fucking have Boston.
It's what I picked, and I'll tell you why. It's because it's one of the I wouldn't want to say few, but I'm not a big rock fan, but man, that's a great song. Like that is a great song from a band with probably the coolest logo in the history of rock logos. And that's the one that resonated with me. As you know, I'm not a big baseball fan. I can appreciate Ichiro and what he did. Chicken fried steak, believe it or not, haven't eaten that much in my life. I get the concept, and when I've had it, I've liked it. I just haven't had it that much. Do like WKRP in Cincinnati, but more than a feeling was it for me. I think it's going to be
producer Tim in my ear right now, Ron.
What do you say?
That you're a communist. He says that you're a communist. The chicken fried steak is just another data point. It's another crack in the armor, Ronnie, is what producer Tim is saying.
As I shared with you the other day, my friend Ed in Salt Lake City is starting to compile a list of everything that you said I'm a communist about. So there's another one for you, Ed. But I think it's going to be either More Than a Feeling or WKRP in Cincinnati is what's going to come out on top.
First of all, Ed's book is going to be thicker than the New Testament by the time that he's done. So let's take a look. I'm going to vote for WKRP in Cincinnati, but I was thinking about Ichiro as well. It was between WKRP and Ichiro for me, and I have to go WKRP, but the results here pretty good. WKRP in Cincinnati just a tad strong. If we had had a TV show that was a little weaker, Rex Crum, the great one himself, he would have been, somewhere on the green maybe. He might have been between 20 and 30 with everything, but KRP is pretty damn popular. So the Dr. Johnny Fever contingent has spoken, Ron.
Yeah. What do you normally comment on a lot of things that I'll throw out there, but what do you think? Like, I seriously want to know, what do you think about my take that Boston's logo is one of the best logos in rock history?
It's a great logo. Yeah. I don't know. I need to see it in order to fully comment on it. But yeah,
like that's spaceship. It's a spaceship, right? With the flames coming out of the bottom.
Yeah, it's a spaceship. Yeah. And aren't they guitars?
Oh, you know what? I think you're right.
Yeah. It's kind of like the Hartford Whalers logo or Milwaukee Brewers, because people will look at that and they'll be like, oh my God, the negative space H. Or they'll look at the Brewers and they'll be like, oh my God, it's an M and a B and a glove. And the Boston logo, there's some people that look at that and they don't realize that they're guitars. So just
we could do a whole
to your
episode.
Argument there.
We could do a whole episode on logos and hidden things. I mean, that FedEx logo's got the arrow in it. Look at that. Yeah, look at that.
There it is. See, it's a fucking guitar, dude.
Yeah, you're right.
And I have another one for you. Hey, Tim, for at some point in this show, give me the Chicago Bulls logo upside down. Just get me the Chicago Bulls, the old one, the one from like the 70s and 80s, and flip that thing upside down, because a lot of people don't know this. If you flip the Bulls logo over, it looks like a robot reading a book.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen that, Ron?
I have. And if we talk long enough, probably for another 20 seconds, Tim will have it. So, but yeah, so there's like I said, there's the FedEx. It's got the arrow in the, in there. You can see an arrow inside between the D and the X, I believe. Look at that.
Right. There. Oh, here it is. Take a look at that. The best producer in the business for a reason, my friends. Yep. It's a Bible. It's almost like it's all Dylan, I'm being told, giving Tim credit for Dylan's handiwork. So we appreciate Dylan for this, but yeah, take a look at it. It's even helpfully labeled. But yeah, we got a robot. It's like he's doing a reading at mass right there almost. But anyway, so yeah, a few minds are blown right now. Take a moment to soak that in, America. Ron, let's talk about your favorite fucking topic. We're coming out of the gate strong with all your favorite things. We led with the WNBA. Now we're going to talk about baseball.
Yes.
You ready for this? All right.
Yes.
All right. That's it. Fake it, baby. Just fake it. That's all I can ask you. Not the first time I've asked someone that, Ron. All right. Well, anyway, the New York Yankees. The New York Yankees have clinched the playoff spot. They are the first American League team to have clinched a playoff spot for the 25th time in the last 30 years. The New York Yankees are in the playoffs, but 15 years since the last time that they went to the World Series. Ron, it's been a World Series drought, and as you know, in New York, for Yankees fans, anything short of the brass ring is considered to be a disappointment, which is what makes that one of the most difficult managing jobs, easy for me to say, in professional sports. And Ron, as you know, Aaron Boone, the skipper of the New York Yankees, is a friend of this program and of Super 70 Sports. And I root for him because he's such a hell of a guy, and he's another yacht rock enthusiast. But it's a lot of pressure, dude. The Yankees are 5 games ahead of Baltimore with 10 to play. They're very likely also going to clinch the American League East at some point in the relatively near future. They ought to close that out. What do you think, Ron? Being in a position, it's like a double-edged sword being the manager of the New York Yankees. On the one hand, you know that you're going to have a good organization and you're probably going to have a better than average roster in terms of talent and ability, but you also know that no matter how many games you win, if you don't end up winning the World Series, people are going to be calling for your head.
Listen, if you take a job like the Yankees, or you take a job like, University of Texas football or Alabama football or UConn basketball, like, the expectations going in, and like nobody's going to feel sorry for you. Like you understand what you're getting yourself into. If you want an easy route, then I don't know, go manage Tampa Bay, go manage, or, be the head coach at, I don't know, I'm not going to, whoever, right? Wake Forest. Yeah, you understand the expectations. So you got to deal with it.
Yeah, you got to deal with it. The New York media has psychologically messed up a lot of players and some managers as well. But I'm happy for Aaron Boone. And I am also happy for one of my all-time figures, not only in baseball, but in the world of sports, the great Bob Uecker, who I believe, is Bob Uecker 90 now? Producer Tim, tell me if I'm wrong. Yeah, he's 90 years old, Bob Uecker, still the radio voice of the Milwaukee Brewers. And here you can see that while they're celebrating, and they are the first divisional champions of the season, the Brewers have like an 11-game lead, I think, in the NL Central. There they are, bringing in Bob Uecker to party with them. What's better than that, seeing 90-year-old Bob Uecker, fucking big smile on his face and loving baseball as much as he ever has, Ron?
Well, you know me, I'm a big fan of feel-good stories. I mean, look at that unadulterated joy on that man's face. So you can't hate that. Even if you're not a Brewers fan, you can't hate that.
Right there, he's saying, I peed my pants. I peed my pants.
Haven't we all?
Yeah. Well, he's fucking hilarious, for starters. And anybody that doesn't like Bob Uecker can just fuck right on off and keep going, as far as I'm concerned. The man is a national treasure. Let's go to Bob Uecker and hear from the man himself about what went down during the Brewers celebration.
The batting practice that I used to be able to throw was really great. It was really fun because I threw to the same guys for probably 15 years. And every day, that was my job. Go down and throw batting practice, get dressed, take a shower. Sometimes I didn't shower. And go back upstairs and do the game. But that's what I did. I mean, I don't even know now if I peed in my pants or if this is champagne. I don't know. I have to wait to find out. So everything's good.
Well, I don't know. Maybe he did. He's not sure. It depends, Ron, on what he discovers later.
I see what you did there.
I did it. So, Ron, there was a tweet. Lane Grindle, I believe, is another Brewers broadcaster who works with Uecker, I think. I was looking this up today, doing my research on who Lane is. Yeah, and he follows me, so I followed him back. So Lane Grindle and I have a connection now. But he made a really interesting tweet, if we can get it up, talking about how Bob Uecker spans such a large time frame in history. He says he was teammates with Warren Spahn, who debuted in 1941 for the Boston Braves, and he called a Jackson Chourio triple in the ninth inning tonight. Chourio may play until 2041, which is possible because the kid's 20 years old and he's really good, so entirely realistic. And he says, that would be 100 years of baseball, and he's the common link, a privilege to call him my friend and partner, Uecker forever. Jim Cott, remember when we had Jim Cott on the program back during launch week, where Cott said, where I said to Jim Cott, look, you pitched to Ted Williams, who debuted in 1939, and you also pitched to Tim Raines, who didn't retire until the early 2000s. So you've got Jim Cott as a bridge in much the same way, but Uecker's just the fucking best. He's the only person, Ron, as you know, years ago, I used to collect autographs through the mail. Back in the 90s, I used to do it. Living in Horse Cave, Kentucky, there wasn't a hell of a lot to do. So I would send baseball cards out to my childhood heroes and see who would answer. But there's only one person that I ever sent a baseball to, because that's more involved, right? It's sending a baseball card. It's just you put a self-addressed stamped envelope in there, whatever. It's not too big of a production. But a baseball, you got to get a package. You got to get another package that's big enough to send it back and send them a pin and whatever. So I only did it once, and it was Bob Uecker. And I sent him a ball, sent him a Bic pen and a letter, and about 3 or 4 months later, I go to the mailbox and I got a big old package stuffed in there, and I have it on display in my office. Ron, right there on the sweet spot, Bob Uecker. The guy just represents everything that I love about baseball. He's fucking hilarious. He loves the game. He was Harry fucking Doyle, for God's sake. I don't know. Can we get the tweet up where I said, if you're talking about the 10 greatest announcers in baseball history, Bob Uecker is 2 of them? Because I would put Bob Uecker on the list as Bob Uecker, and I would put him on the list again as the voice of the fictional 1989 Cleveland Indians, Harry Doyle. And there he is with the best color man in the business there, his partner. 1 hit, is that all we got? 1 goddamn hit? And of course, we all love Just a Bit Outside. Vaughn, a juvenile delinquent in the offseason, making his major league debut. And take a look at this jacket, Ron. You sent me a photo of yourself last night looking very GQ, but I don't know if you could pull off that jacket or not. Takes a hell of a lot of confidence to walk out of the house wearing that.
Yeah, no chance. That's like what Craig Sager-esque,
love
right?
me some Bob Barker. Yeah, and before Sager.
Yeah.
But Ueck has had an incredible career. He tells a really funny story. Bob Gibson, who is one of the most fearsome pitchers, maybe some people might consider him to be the most intimidating pitcher in baseball history, certainly on, I think, the one hand of guys who would come up as the most intimidating. He and Uecker, back in the early 60s, I want to say this was like 64, they held hands in the Cardinals team photo as a joke, and nobody noticed it. And so if you find that and zoom in on it, and we'll do that on this program at some time, I've tweeted about it, but they've got these big shit-eating grins on their faces, and they're holding hands in the team photo because nobody noticed it, and it went out as the official team photo. So Bob Uecker, just full of mischief, and God bless him, 90 years old, and maybe the Brewers, if the Yankees can't win it all, our friend Aaron Boone, then I guess I'm going to ride with the Milwaukee Brewers, because it would be fun to see Bob Uecker pee himself again in a World Series celebration. Ronnie, my other job when I'm not hosting this future award-winning program that
Emmy.
we're doing here
some are
today.
telling us for an Emmy already.
Yeah, I believe so. It's only a matter of time, really. But I tweet also, and so let's take a look over on X at Super 70 Sports. If you're watching this show, let's face it, you probably already follow me, but if you don't, get over there and give me a follow. What am I tweeting? I don't know, Ron. We can get something up. Here's one. Today in 1993, Kurt Loder hit you with some breaking music news that slapped so goddamn hard you almost couldn't handle it. He was the Walter Cronkite of music news, Ron.
He was.
Or did they have MTV in the gulag or wherever you were? Were you watching MTV in the 90s, or is this just going to be another one for the book that your friend is working on?
Yeah, no, I don't think Eddie's going to put that one in the book. No, I was watching. I was married by then, so I was just I was an out.
You're still allowed to watch MTV even if you're married, Ron.
No, that's my point. It wasn't the 80s when I was out looking for somebody that might marry me.
Okay.
I was married. I was settled. I was already old and boring in 1993. So yeah, I was watching MTV.
Yeah, Kurt Loder, he had such gravitas. He would just come in, I'm Kurt Loder with an MTV news story, and then he would just
something was going down. Yeah.
He was delivering salt and pepper news like it was fucking Vietnam.
Hey, and then when he'd throw in some Spinderella.
It was amazing how serious he seemed to take it all. Yeah. But of all the things that make you feel old, and there's always the stuff where you can say you want to feel old. Like I saw the other day, Bewitched debuted 60 years ago this week.
2 years before I was born.
How's that possible?
Crazy.
60 years. Bewitched. 60 years before Bewitched. Sorry. It's not Bewitched. It's Bewitched. Before that show debuted, if you went back 60 years from there, you would have been in 1904. 1964 is as far away from today as 1904 was from 1964. And it seems like 1904 to 1964 is an eternity, and 1964 to 2024 is 20 minutes. I wasn't even alive in the 60s, but oh yeah, let's take a look. Here it is. Look in the front row there, over on the right-hand side. Bob Gibson and Uecker. They're like the only two people in the photo. Almost. There's a couple other guys smiling, but look at them smiling and the look on their face. I absolutely love that so much. Uecker, you would expect it, but Gibby, that is so fucking awesome that he did that, because ordinarily you look at him as somebody that you'd just be fucking afraid of him. But to see that side of him is pretty fucking funny, man. Let's get one more tweet up here. What am I tweeting? Ron, remember when that's what phones look like?
I do.
And you'd always write your number with a pen in that thing that's in the middle, like in case you had a head injury and wouldn't be able to remember it.
Or you put 911 in there so you could remember 911.
Yeah. And you just crank that thing, man.
Have you
just crank it.
Have you seen any of those videos that have been out in the last few years where it'll be a mom or a dad, or combo mom and dad, videotaping their teenage kids, and they hand them that phone and they say, "Do you know what this is?" And they're like, "Yeah, it's a phone." And then they say, "Do you know how to use it?" And they have absolutely no idea how to use it, which is crazy to us to see these kids just not getting it. But if you don't know, you just don't know. And it is so funny watching them try to figure out, like, how do you use this thing?
Remember those old phones that we would see when we were kids that were already outdated then, but it's the phone where you would hold up the one piece
Yes.
and you'd have the ear thing and the talking thing. I never understood how those worked.
No.
And now these are just as much of a historical artifact. I'm just still amazed that we're going to have to explain video stores to kids. You used to go out and you used to rent movies.
Your
Trying to
youngest daughter
explain
doesn't know.
Blockbuster. Yeah,
your youngest
they don't
daughter
have any.
doesn't. Yeah,
They have no concept of how that would work whatsoever.
Yeah,
and
your
it used
oldest
to
one
be
would
such
know,
a
but yeah,
such a part of our life.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little bit wild.
Hey, OutKick fans on YouTube, if you enjoyed this episode, hit the subscribe button and make your way over to OutKick.com where you can watch the full episode.